Hi, my name is James Stevenson. I'm the Community Director at Insomniac Games working on Marvel's Spider-Man for PlayStation 4. No, you're not going to see the Avengers. I think Spider-Man even makes a comment if you swing by about where he thinks they are right now. Marvel Spider-Man is mainly focused on the Spider-Man characters. That said, the game is set in a Marvel universe, so it wouldn't really feel right if it was a New York City that didn't have Marvel landmarks like Avengers Tower or the Wakandan Embassy. So Spider-Man can discover these locations as you're playing the game, and he'll usually give you some little zippy one-liners about what's going on with those characters. So you can find a little bit more about the bigger world, but this is a Spider-Man story, and we're mainly going to be focused on those Spider-Man characters. So there's no symbiotes in this game, but you're going to see Peter Parker as Spider-Man in this game. He's the Spider-Man that's been in New York for 8 years. He's masterful at fighting crime, and you're playing as a 23-year-old Peter Parker and kind of dealing with this coming-of-age story for him as he's now juggling, his career, his ex-girlfriend MJ, things with Aunt May, trying to pay rent in his apartment but not doing a very good job of it while also being Spider-Man in the city. That said, there are a ton of different suits that you can craft, so if you want to get a new look, it's a new suit power, you just have to kind of find the crafting materials, and Peter Parker builds his own suits and gadgets, so you have some other ways to customize your character if you like other suits like Spider-Punk or maybe the Iron Spider from the MCU. So right now we're just focused on trying to finish this one. We've spent the last 3.5 years. It's the biggest game we've ever made. At the time of this recording, there's still people back in Burbank who are working on finishing the game, and we're down to the final days of it here. But so we have some of the people who are working on the game are now working on post-launch content, and we plan to have several drops called The City That Never Sleeps, which will introduce new story and missions and new suits to the game, along with new characters. The first one that'll be coming out somewhat after launch or shortly after launch features Black Cat, so we hope players look forward to that. Like I said, right now the whole focus is like finishing this first game and getting it as good as it can possibly be. We've announced 3 additional story expansions for The City That Never Sleeps, and once we're done with those, we'll see if people have responded to or like it. We'll figure out what's going to happen next, but it's kind of hard to say until we actually ship the game and people hopefully buy it and review it and talk about it. There's a lot of things that have to happen before we even know what we're focused on, because we still have a lot of this game left to make. So one of the things we talked about very early on was that the best Spider-Man stories are when Peter and Spider-Man's worlds collide.
You help everyone.
So one of the things we focused on was trying to find ways to make that happen everywhere throughout the story that we could. We worked with Dan Slott very early on in this in the production of this game. He was kind of one of the initial consultants in the first few months of the project, kind of helping us as we thought about what the story might be. And Dan Slott created Mr. Negative within the last decade or so. He's a new character that many fans, if you haven't read the comics recently, may not be aware of. What's interesting about Mr. Negative is his alter ego is Martin Lee, a philanthropist who runs feast shelters, which are these homeless shelters that help people in New York. So he has this very interesting duality himself, and on top of that, Aunt May works for Martin Lee. So you can imagine the horror and surprise for Spider-Man when he realizes that the new evil force in the city, Mr. Negative, is his Aunt May's boss.
I'm a little behind on my rent,
and that was one of the reasons why we really liked, beyond just liking the character in the comics, we thought he fit the themes that we were going for very, very well and allowed us to play with that idea of worlds colliding. No, when you're in the city, we want you to play as Spider-Man. The whole city is designed as a playground for Spider-Man, so there's very intentional story moments where you'll get to control Peter Parker in some environments that are more built for him, but if you're going to swing around the city, you need to be suited up and costumed because Spider-Man is a secret identity. Spider-Man knows that people cannot know who he is, and for him to keep his family and friends safe. So we have you when you're in the open world playing as Spider-Man, and at select times you'll get to play as Peter Parker. The game has both puzzles that'll allow us to kind of show Peter's technical and scientific abilities. There will be moments where you will do them throughout the story. There'll also be several optional ones, both in the lab and potentially at the research stations, where Peter's doing scientific tasks on behalf of Harry Osborn that are a fair bit more challenging. So it's kind of one of those opportunities where we don't make it too hard, so if players don't want to do them, they can get through it. But for the players that really like them, there are opportunities to earn more research tokens to build new suits, and also experience by completing harder puzzles. We're still finishing and tuning the final, so it's kind of hard to say. And it also varies in the tests we have run, it varies very wildly, so I don't want to nail it down too specifically. But we feel like it's a really big game, and there's a ton of content there, and we think it'll keep players quite busy for some time. Yeah, you'll see crimes throughout the city, and depending on how many crimes you do, you may see a similar crime. Just people will always be trying to rob stores or hijack cars. It could be in different locations, and different things can happen. That said, as the game progresses, so does the city, and so do the crimes. So you will see the city change due to these events in the story, as well as you will see some of the crimes being committed change due to the events of the story. For instance, today, you are only just introduced to the inner demons at the very end of what we're allowed to play. So you haven't really seen the inner demons out on the street yet, but you're about to. Yeah, so as the game goes on, you become more powerful, more adept at playing Spider-Man, but the threats that you will face also scale up as well, and you will face new threats throughout the course of the game that will put your skills to the test. Hey everyone, it's James from Insomniac Games. I'm here in Kuala Lumpur with Marvel's Spider-Man. It's awesome to be visiting Malaysia and showing Spider-Man to press here from all over Southeast Asia, and especially Malaysia and Singapore. We hope you are so excited to play this game. We've been working on it for years. We cannot wait for you to get your hands on it. Hang in there just a few more weeks until the game is out. Try to avoid all those spoilers. There's a lot of surprises left in the game, and that we've been working very hard to protect. So be careful the next few weeks out there, and as soon as you play the game on September 7th, please jump on social media at Insomniac Games. Let us know what you think. We can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for all your support over the years of Insomniac Games, from Ratchet and Clank to Resistance and everything else we've made. We can't wait for you to get your hands on Spider-Man, and we'll talk to you very soon.